Hey, welcome back to GV Talk Sports. We're live on a number of different platforms, but we have to make sure that we thank WRAQ for airing us. I happen to be Mr. Dutt. Our normal host, Brock, is not here with us today, and I am here with
Chelsea George.
Kennedy.
Mr. Horton.
Jonathan.
And we have a special guest, Mr. Don Baker. For those of you who don't know, well, if you're listening in the Belmont Angelica area, you know Don Baker. He's a legend, coaching legend here at Belmont and then Genesee Valley. Well, welcome, Coach. It's good to have you with us.
Good to be here.
We had an interesting situation. What did you do with your players to make sure that they were in school? I remember you always pushed scholar athlete. You know,
Right.
you were always a scholar first, athlete second. How did you influence your team in that direction?
We always had a chat early in the season, first, second day of the season, and we emphasized the importance of attendance in order to be eligible, and secondly, so we could practice.
Okay, I hate to interrupt you, Coach, but when you say chat, I've seen some of your chats. Okay,
Yeah,
You gotta
okay.
say it lightly, like it's just
Early
we're
in
having
the-
coffee and
right,
sitting around
yes.
chatting.
Was that more of a monologue, Coach, than a dialogue?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Early in the season, it was, we weren't excited. We were glad to be there and excited to be there, but we really weren't into the practical practices and activities. As we proceeded through our season, things got more excitable and a little more animated, certainly. But at the time, we were concerned about everybody, the team effort, everybody being there together every day, consistency. I mean, that's part of the winning recipe. And so I simply told them that I never had a perfect attendance as an employee and as a student, but during basketball season, we will have a perfect attendance. And so I didn't plan on missing a day during the season, which is a long season, and I expected the student athletes to follow that.
Was there consequences? What were were you going, Mr. Dutt?
Well,
Consequences?
I wasn't necessarily going to consequences. I was just wondering how he pursued that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'll be honest, my teams over the last 4 years have been fantastic in terms of that. They're always here the day before, always here the day after, rarely ever miss class. Good students, etc. And I don't know if I was just blessed with great student athletes or if, if you were always blessed with great student athletes.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have the horses, you're not going to run the race. I was blessed with really good student athletes, and plus they really bought into the team philosophy. They're smart, hardworking, athletic individuals, and they knew the importance of working together on a daily basis. So really, I didn't have to do a lot of the reinforcement after our discussion. A lot of their team members, where were you yesterday? We needed you. We went over this. We have a game tomorrow. So because of their team interaction, they bought into it, and we really didn't have a problem with attendance.
We got some student athletes here with us. Tell us how you feel about that. Like, does it bother you when some of your teammates don't show up or don't seem to put in the same amount of effort that you do?
A little. Yeah, I think so. Because especially if they're like a big part of the team, and they know that.
We need a little more from you, Kennedy. Okay. What Kennedy said is, especially if they're a big part of the team.
Then they should be putting in all they got, just like the rest of us. And if they don't show up to school, I mean, I don't think they should play in the next game.
John?
Yeah, it really bothers you because you come to practice every day and they just don't.
Right.
So, John, did you have a game last night? How'd that go?
We won by about 25, I think.
I heard that. And it didn't hurt your feelings that it was against Fillmore?
Not a bit.
Fillmore just isn't the boys' team that they used to be, are they?
I think they're on the way back up. They hit rock bottom about 2 years ago when they, I don't know if they won more than 2 games. Yeah. And they got a new coach, Brandon Carter, over there, does a good job with them and is coming back. I think they're like 500 this year. Donnie says they don't have the horses that GV does right now.
Is this the end of the Jamie Mullen, Randy Crouch era kind of thing?
Randy's still there. Randy's
Oh,
still
is he
there
still
as
there
the JV
coaching?
coach.
Oh, he's
but
coaching Jamie.
Oh, no kidding.
but Brandon Carter took over for Jamie.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, interesting. And Chelsea, any comments on our game last night?
No.
All right. I wondered what you would say, but you might give me your opinions later. We got beat. We got beat by Andover. Andover's a very good basketball team. They got a really fantastic player in Emily Wall. She controls the tempo. She controls the game. Defensively, she's solid. And I think we're just still trying to figure out who we are. You know, for 3 years we were led by the same group of people, and so now we're still looking to try to figure out who's going to step forward, who's going to be that leader. Talking to a couple people after the game last night, comments after the game, and that's another question for you, Coach, later. Comments after the game, how many times have you had to rescind those because you were frustrated and said some things? I look at it and say we still have a month before we have to be good. And so there's a lot of work that we can do and a lot of things that we can improve. So, go back to practice today and try to figure some of those things out. Came up with some great ideas, Kennedy, at 3 o'clock in the morning. So,
All right, I'm excited.
all right. So we'll see what happens.
You're gonna put Coach Baker on the spot.
I am.
Best player he's ever coached.
All right.
No, I can't do that.
Man.
Oh, see.
I never have. I probably never will. I can give you the top 5 maybe, but
Oh, top five.
Okay, top 5 works.
Because I heard somebody ask Jim Boeheim that once too.
yeah.
And he said,
John Wallace. He didn't even hesitate. He said John Wallace.
Yeah.
Without.
Well-
Wallace was tough.
Well,
He didn't even hesitate.
I've had some top players, but they were top in the sport because of a particular strength they had. Certainly, team leadership was so important. The old saying is, your best team leader is better than your best player. And we believed in that. I believe in that. And so I had some really good players who happened to be very athletic and talented, but also had the leadership skills, which is very important.
We talked about this about a month ago, so this
Okay.
is a great point that you're bringing up. Does your team leader have to be your best player?
No, definitely not. I've had some great leaders on the Pine with me, sitting on the bench, but great supporters, great cheerleaders. They in practice they were vocal and very active. Maybe in the game, not as much active as far as participating because they weren't a starter. But they just helped morally and attitudinally during the game. They were probably our best cheerleader.
But it helps if your best player is the best leader.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
it helps.
Because, the players not only want to play well for themselves and for the coach and their parents, but they also want to appease the leader that's on the bench because they know he doesn't get that opportunity to get out there and perform and show his skills. So
you've had some 1,000-point scores. Let's start with
Yeah.
that. 1,000-point scores. Can we name them all? In
I can't.
TV history?
I can't.
I
but,
think I can.
You think you can get him?
okay.
Well, I know that Jimmy Feldbauer was one.
Yes.
And I think Warren Davis
Warren
was
Davis.
Yes.
I'm going to say probably Nick Kelly was one.
Nick Kelly was one. Yes.
I don't think Ramey was.
I don't think Ramey
no,
was.
Ramey wasn't.
Jake probably wasn't.
Jake wasn't. I think those are it.
I think
really.
those are the three
Legit.
1,000.
A lot of schools they
did-
say 1,000 points and they.
Did Carter get to 1,000?
Yep.
Oh, Carter
Carter
did
did,
1,000
yeah.
as well?
Okay.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
didn't coach Carter, though, did you?
No, I didn't. No, but he's a
So-
great player. I watched him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty. Those 1,000-point scores. That was a funny year, right? That was the first year of the merger.
Oh, yeah.
And interesting because we've had this discussion before. Imagine Coach Baker, the first year of a merger where he's taking 2 basketball teams that each had 15 decent players on them and putting them together with one team.
Very exciting.
Yeah, you had
Super team.
Belmont at that time. No offense to anybody, because I actually coached against Mr. Baker when I coached at Angelica, but he had these Smith boys. I don't know who the heck they were, but they were pretty good. And,
They were all right,
But
from what I
Angelica was very competitive. They weren't maybe as good as we were very competitive.
Yes.
And Belmont was very competitive
Yes.
too. So how do you take 30 players and make one team?
Right. Well, when we merged, or before we merged, Angelica was on the upswing. I mean, you as coaches understand that you don't develop. It's not like a professional or collegiate team. You can't go out and pick good players. You work with the student body you have, which is good. I mean, I think you have a stronger family unit and more team-oriented concept. But you have to build from what you have, starting at a young age, because basketball is a difficult but very exciting sport. So there's a lot of work and time put into building a basketball program. So seeing the talent that was coming from Angelica, and Angelica was on the upswing, I think, at the time.
You had that whole Kelly family.
Yes, that's right. Yes, exactly. And Kevin Dew, if he was here, he would certainly reinforce that.
Yep.
And so I was very excited to see the two schools merge from that aspect. And
Judy was too.
so as Judy was,
Yeah.
certainly. Yeah.
Coach Blivin.
Yeah,
Judy-
Coach Blivin.
Coach Blivin and her
those
soccer
two soccer
program.
teams that came together.
Her
they were
state
both
championship.
fantastic soccer teams, and
Yeah.
put them together, and it was amazing.
Yeah, that would be like the only state championship that Genesee Valley has, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the
Team.
first year of the merger.
Right.
That was the first year.
Literally
The
very
first
year.
Very, very.
It was 2.5
just-
months in.
It just showed how well the kids, the students meshed and were compatible and worked together. It was a great year.
Great
was.
year, good time. So, do we want to move on? Do we want to talk about, we don't have Brock here, so we usually talk about the NBA, but
John will take care of it.
John's not going to take care of
Well-
the NBA. What are you thinking?
What am I thinking?
Yeah, are we going to go to college basketball?
Sure. Sure, let's go to
We
college
got a
basketball.
couple of young ladies here that are college basketball gurus, or at least they're Syracuse fans. Yeah.
Syracuse going to get back in the top 25. They're up to 11-4. You got another game tomorrow.
They're doing good in the ACC.
You know, they got Georgia Tech tomorrow. You think Georgia Tech's going to beat them? They're playing in the dome.
No.
Playing in the dome.
So, UB Syracuse. A lot of people went to that game.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people went.
I didn't.
Anybody here go?
UB's the real deal.
Yeah.
I watched them play Bonaventure, and it was like playing a high school team. Like UB was playing a high school team. It was, and Bonaventure's not half bad. They thumped two the other night, St. Joe's. You know,
I mean, they
so
look terrible against Syracuse, though.
who's it? Bonnie's?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Bonnie's playing 3 or 4 freshmen all the time. You know, so that's a big deal. Although the Clemson football coach would say, "What's the big deal about playing a freshman?" Right?
Yeah.
I don't know, Chelsea. You're at Syracuse person. What do you think?
They're definitely doing really well right now. They're undefeated in the ACC, I think. So
Right.
they're doing good.
Are they tournament bound?
I think so. I think they're always
Are
turning
they
around.
gonna
I don't
land-
think they're ever
Land
snubbed.
firmly on the bubble
Yeah.
again, so
Yeah.
that you wait until the last day, and then
feel
you go,
like-
"Oh, look, Syracuse made it
Yeah.
again," and then they're going to make the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
They're always in the next 4 out, and then they end up squeezing through.
Right, exactly.
And
They
then-
go to the Final Four.
Yeah.
Then they end up winning a few
So-
games because that zone is just brutal.
Yeah.
They're so long, they're so athletic.
Unless they match up against an ACC team.
Right, and that's the dilemma because the
Yeah.
ACC team, and that how do you as a committee judge that? Because when the ACC teams have seen that Syracuse zone,
They know how
you
to
know they could be the 8th best team in the ACC, but legitimately make the Final Four depending on the matchups. Because if you don't play against that zone all the time, that's horrendous.
That's a great question we could go down through here and ask. Given a choice on defense, would you rather play man or zone? Let's start out
From a personal standpoint or from a coaching standpoint?
from a personal standpoint.
Well, that's
Offensive
Or you can answer as a coach, too.
That's the perplexing problem with opponents who play Syracuse in that no one wants to play Syracuse in the playoffs. And there's a reason why, is because they have their matchup zone perfected. I mean, it's not a zone, it's a matchup. It's a cross, it's a hybrid between a man and zone. And that's why it's so tough to prepare to play Syracuse, even if you've played them before, because they can make some alterations as far as how their matchup's going to be, who's going to drop down or who's going to cross over, et cetera, and who's going to cover their better players. So even if you've played them before, you still have to prepare for their different switches in man-to-man, that man-to-man type zone. When Jake played there, Jake Pursuti played there, for the first 2 months, all they played was man-to-man. He says, Coach, that's all we do is man-to-man. We haven't even started the 2-3 zone yet. And the reason is because of the matchup. So it's a tough defense to play against. So
it really is. When you watch it, it's a zone, but definitely with man-to-man principles in there.
And as they that's why they're so tough at the end of the year, because that zone becomes more of a stranglehold against any offense, and no one wants to play them at the end of the year.
That's true.
All right, well, we'll start with Horton. Are you a zone or a man-to-man?
As a player, I like playing man-to-man.
Okay.
Well, just because it was simple for me. I'm guarding you. I need to stop you.
Right.
That's the basic principle. Sure, there's help and there's all that kind of stuff. But I like taking the personal responsibility as a player. Was I any good at it? That's questionable.
We've had conversations about that, right?
Defense may not have been my
What do we
strength.
used to say about Bill Horton? Bill Money Horton had the Division I shot in Allegheny County defense. Chelsea, what do you think?
It depends on what kind of team you're playing, obviously, where they score, how much they score, or whatever. But probably same thing as Mr. Horton. Man-to-man is, like, more personal. Like, you got to do your, like, one job and do it by
You got
yourself.
one job.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess in a zone you have your one job, too, but
Right, but it's different.
more spread out.
Right. Ken?
I think zone. I like
Okay.
zone. I think you cover a lot more ground.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're very spread out. And I feel like if I'm on the bench watching and we're in a man-man, I feel like the middle is always open.
Mm-hmm.
And with a zone, there's always someone there.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it covers a lot more ground, and you can cover, inside shooters, outside shooters. So I prefer a zone.
Johnny?
Well, I'd rather play against a zone, like a 2-3 zone probably, because then you can get open threes.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd probably rather play a man-to-man because it's just simpler.
Okay.
And then if, like, somebody gets beat, it's, like, their fault. But in a zone, it's, like, everybody's fault.
Well, and that's as a coach, right? Somebody gets a layup underneath in the zone, and the first thing you notice is, like, two players, like, look at each other.
Look at each other, right?
Like, what? That was your guy.
That was you.
No, that was you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was nobody's.
Yeah, I can follow that thinking. I remember as a player, I liked man-to-man because I would do the same thing, that I would know how much that player normally scored, and my goal was you're going to score at least 5 under that. And there was, there was kind of a personal, if you scored on me last time, it's not going to happen again. That kind of thing to it. As a coach, though, I think Chelsea brings up a great point. It depends on who you're playing. I mean, there's teams that will live and die by a zone, even though they got kids that can hit from 4 feet beyond the arc, and you're just getting killed. And then you have coaches that live and die by man-to-man, and you just can't match up. So in no way, shape, or form am I saying I'm a great coach, but I'm just thinking that's kind of what I think a coach should be doing, is looking at the strengths of the opponent and trying to figure out what's the best defense to play against them. How about you, Bakes? Bakes and I had some real good competitions back in the day, playing some man-to-man.
Yes.
He was one of those people that said, I'm not going to let you score next time.
Well, in a perfect world, man-to-man. But as Coach Duttweiler said, that when you're playing against a team that has a really good penetrating guard, they can wreck your man-to-man defense. They're just going to penetrate and create their own offense. And so, to give you an example, Bobby Knight, always fierce man-to-man, stubborn to a point where he was stubborn, he wouldn't go zone. Of course, Mike Krzyzewski, who played and was a coach, assistant coach under Bobby Knight, when he was coaching at Duke, played Georgia Tech and was getting beat with his man-to-man defense, went to a zone. And the next morning, Bobby Knight called Mike and just peeled him out. If anybody knows Bobby Knight, he doesn't mix words. He gets right to the point. And he's really peeling out Coach Krzyzewski about going to zone. Why did you go to zone? And so many explicatives. Coach Krzyzewski goes, but Coach, we won the game, but that wasn't good enough for Bobby Knight. So now you watch Duke, and they play a lot of zone because you have such great guards, ball handlers out there, and the screen is still such a threat offensively that, as Chelsea says, according to who you're playing, you got to be a little flexible in your defense.
That was Kenny Anderson that lit them up, wasn't it? For Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
When he had to switch, because Kenny Anderson
could contain
get
him.
to the rack.
Could not contain him.
Yeah.
Good guard. Guard play is. Let's face it, guard play. I've said this before. In order to win a championship, you got to have a great point.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a
You
doubt.
can have all the bigs in the world.
Yeah, nothing against the bigs. I love bigs, and they're great, and they certainly have their role to play. But guards are handling the ball most of the time. They're in the open court most of the time. They're making quick snap decisions.
Touch the ball on every play. just
Critical, yes.
But if you had a big that played
Plus,
like
I was always a guard, so.
about.
you had a big that played like a guard, like Magic Johnson.
You throw Kevin Durant in there, and he's
Yeah, well, if you got a big guard, that's even better yet.
even
Magic
better.
Johnson, Durant.
All right, well, I saw something super important on ESPN I think we need to bring up.
Okay.
Tim Tebow's getting married.
I just saw it was up there, and I'm
Was it
like,
up on-
is this
Tim
me?
Tebow just asked, Miss Universe or something to marry him. He's finally found true love, Johnny. Isn't that important? Shouldn't we talk about that?
Nope.
All right, Johnny doesn't want to talk about it. I just saw it on there, so I had to mention something. Football playoffs this week. Who you got? Okay, you got
Well, I will tell you.
New England versus the Chargers.
Yeah.
I heard an interesting thing on the Will Kane show yesterday.
The Will Kane show on ESPN in the afternoon.
good
show, too.
That is fun to watch or
Well,
listen
he
to.
said that since 2015 or something, there's been a pattern that when Alabama doesn't win the national championship, New England wins the Super Bowl. And when when they do win, New England doesn't win. So New England's gonna win.
Wow, there
It's
you go.
happened 5 times in a row or something. how it
Can
goes.
we talk about that mathematically?
Sure, you can.
Well, because you have two probabilities for each one, right? You have a win and a loss for
Oh, yeah. Everybody moans.
you have a win and a loss for New England and the win and a loss for Alabama.
Yeah.
Correct? So, for them both to win, it can only happen 25% of the time. For them both to lose, it can only happen 25% of the time. But for them to alternate win-loss, it could happen half the time. So probability should work that way. I'm just being messing. Because they're both great teams. They're
Yeah.
both great programs. So
It's an interesting pattern that's
it is. So are you
shown a
predicting
few
New
times.
England? Are you going with Will Kane and predicting New
Probably
England?
not, because I don't think I can say that.
Okay, you
Just
wanna
out
go-
loud, you just
Yeah.
can't say it.
I don't
I'll
think I
give
can
you
do
the
that.
lineup of the games. The first game on Saturday is the Colts and the Chiefs.
Here, I have it.
Colts.
You got
Colts.
it?
I don't need pictures.
What do you got, Johnny?
Colts. 100%.
Yeah, Colts.
No
Really?
problem. Yep.
I'm gonna go Chiefs.
Mahomes is gonna fall apart under pressure.
You think?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. He's been
I
playing
don't
pretty
know.
well.
Yeah.
He was under a lot of pressure of one game that I watched.
What is playoffs?
Yeah.
Playoffs are different.
And they're in Kansas City.
And the Colts are really hot right now.
I will say that
And I really like the Colts coach.
Yeah.
Frank Reich.
Yes.
Okay, but he doesn't look like Frank Reich with that big old beard he's got on there. And
He's got some of the biggest hands of anybody I've ever seen. I shook his hand one time, and it just swallowed my hand. Like it was like my hand wasn't there. Like I was a little kid, and it was. It's crazy.
that's what you got to have to be an NFL quarterback, right?
He's a
Hang
big
on to
dude
that
too.
Big skin.
6'4".
6'5".
Yeah.
Big skin.
Big skin. Nice. So,
So-
I don't know. Are we finally going to see the Andrew Luck that everybody's been talking about for all these years?
He's got some good stats this year. He's
think
been
we already
playing
are.
great.
I know, but it's funny that his talent just hasn't turned into championships, isn't it? I mean, honestly. Nothing against Luck. He's a great quarterback.
You can't turn talent into championships if there's not a lot of talent around you.
One of the good things they did do is they put an offensive line in for him.
Yeah.
We had
They drafted that
23.
one guard out of Notre Dame, and he's been great. I mean, you see the rookie running back Mac or whatever. He's
Mhm.
doing great this year too.
Yeah, Andrew Luck is number 6 in terms of yards per game.
Dallas and Los Angeles.
LA.
Dallas.
Except it's going to be an away game for the Rams.
True.
Even
What?
in LA.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Because Dallas travels well. America's team.
And Los Angeles doesn't get fans anywhere, really.
Did you ever notice that?
So
Like, there's
new.
nobody in the stands. Is it too hot? I remember watching a Marlins game down in like on TV in Florida. It was in the summer. There was no one in the stands because it's 103.
Right. I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah.
But those places, the Florida, California, especially large cities, there's so many other things to do. There's so many. I mean, and you know, I've heard people like Will Kane say, "There's the beach."
Yeah.
Okay, I could go to the beach and surf for free,
Watch the game on my phone.
or spend $150 to sit in 100-degree weather and watch a team that up until this year wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you choose.
Yeah, you decide.
And then we got, then the Chargers in New England.
I think the Chargers are going to beat them.
I think the
the Chargers are going to beat
them,
them. I think Phillip Rivers is going to come through.
Philip Muddy Rivers.
Nice.
And then there's Philadelphia, New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, we got 3 minutes. We got to wrap it up.
Ready for final thoughts?
Yep.
Okay. Kennedy's been working on her final
Final
thoughts
thoughts.
for a week and a half now.
Kind of.
Kennedy's going to come up with, I think Alabama's going to win national championship. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. We're predicting.
That was last week.
Okay, I'll start. My final thought is I'm going to disagree with Chelsea. New England's not going to win. I'm going to stick with my same final thought. Chargers win. New England's out. Tom Brady retires. And they draft.
Johnny
Oh
Manziel.
my God.
Sad time in Foxborough.
I do think that if the Patriots don't win this year, I think Tom Brady's gonna be done. But I've been saying that all year. I'm just
You have been.
gonna keep saying that.
I'm just jumping on the Chelsea bandwagon.
Yeah. He just looks
What do
bad.
you got, Kennedy?
Rockets won't make it to the finals, and James Harden will retire.
Ooh, that's awesome.
Wow.
What?
Shout out to you, Brock.
Ron, that is.
Where are you?
Yep.
Retire?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or shave his beard.
He's not
That's
even
right.
old.
He's going to shave his beard. Injury retirement.
Yeah.
Final thoughts.
Sure.
Marcus Howard from Marquette is the best player in the country and will be one of the best players in the NBA once he gets drafted.
He is a lot like Curry.
Yeah.
He can just light it up. He's tough. Kyler Murray goes #1 in the NFL draft and throws baseball out the window.
Wow.
New England will win. I'm not a New
Oh, there you go.
I'm not a New England fan. The crowd just won't allow
And that will be the
happen.
last time Mr. Baker's on the radio
That's
show with
right.
us.
Hey, you know I'm a Bills fan, so
Well, and thanks to Mr. Baker for being on
Yeah,
the show.
thank you very
too.
much for joining us today.
It was awesome.
Enjoyed
great,
it.
Great discussion.
Thank you
So
for the invite.
we're out, Riley. Are we done to go? All right. So go ahead, Mr. Dutt. You want to take us home?
Hey, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate having you. This has been GV Talk Sports. I am Mr. Dutt, and I'm here with
Chelsea.
Kennedy.
Jonathan.
Mr. Horton.
Don Baker.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.